What's this? Families are going into debt for Disney vacations. Disney vacations? Hey, chat, listen to this. Families are going into debt for Disney vacations. Some families are spending more than they can afford on Disney vacations. They say it's because they know their children won't stay young forever. That's interesting. I didn't even know Disney vacations was a real thing.
Are you kidding me with this? Families going into debt for some overpriced mouse-themed vacation? What a joke. They're burning through cash they don't have so little Timmy can get a hug from a guy in a costume? Come on, that's just pathetic. These parents need to get their heads checked. Spending money they don't have on something so trivial just because their kids won't stay young forever? How about teaching those kids the value of $1 instead? You want to impress me? Start talking about something that makes sense, not this fairy tale garbage.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that was really harsh. Okay. I think I'm actually going to read this article. 한 6번, 7번 정도 본 것 같은데 그러면서 정리를 조금 해봤거든요. 이게 의외로 좋은 영어 학습 자료가 될 수 있을 것 같아요. 그 내용도 일단 좀 재밌게 볼 수 있는 데다가 가벼운 마음으로 볼 수 있는 데다가 좋은 표현들도 워낙 많이 나오고 저도 보면서 모르는 것들도 있었고요. 처음 알게 된 것들도 있었고 그 전에는 뭐 보고 들으면 대충은 알았지만 이런 조합으로 이렇게 쓰는 거구나를 좀 확실하게 알게 된 그런 것도 몇 개 있었고요. 그러면서 여러분들 생각도 많이 났어요. 그래서 여러분이 좀 이런 거를 이렇게 내용 보면서 이런 것도 좀 이렇게 이런 표현을 배웠으면 좋겠다 하는 것들이 몇 가지가 있었으니까요. 빠르게 한번 같이 볼게요. 오케이, 이 기사 전반에 걸쳐서 여러 가족에 대한 얘기가 나오는데 첫 번째 가족 얘기를 소개를 하면서 이 가족은 디즈니 휴가를 every year since 2015 다니고 있대요. Every year since 2015. So this family has been going on these Disney vacations every year since 2015. 그럼 얼마나 된 거죠? 몇 년째 다니고 있는 거죠? How long have they been doing this? How long have they been going on these family Disney vacations? If they've been going every year since 2015, it's 2024 now, so it's been about 9 years. Right? 9 years. 이 가족은 왜 이렇게 매해 다니느냐? Because for this family, it's like an oasis. 이 휴가가 약간 오아시스 같은 그런 존재래요. Because it helps them escape the stress of everyday life. Escape the stress of everyday life. 일상에서 받는 그런 스트레스들에서 벗어나는 그런 의미에서 약간 이게 오아시스 같은 그런 거래요. 그래서 이 가족에서 아들이 태어났을 때, 아들 링컨이 태어났을 때 이 부모는 마음을 먹었대요. 얘가 처음 디즈니랜드에 갈 때는 아주 특별한 경험을 시켜줘야겠다. 그래서 spared no expense 했대요. spared no expense. 비용을 전혀 아끼지 않았대요. 돈을 전혀 아낄 생각 없이 여행을 계획을 한 거죠. So when their son was born, they wanted his first trip to the park to be a very special experience, so they spared no expense in planning for the trip. They spared no expense. So they booked a 2-week trip. 2주 여행을 book 했대요. They booked a 2-week trip to Orlando, Florida, Disneyland. 그랬더니 the costs quickly accumulated. The costs quickly accumulated. 비용이 빠르게 누적이 돼서 쌓여서 불어났다. 보통 한국어에서는 불어났다라고 하나요? 비용이 금방 불어났다. Accumulated 말고 뭐 added up이라고 할 수도 있겠네요. The costs quickly added up. The costs quickly accumulated. 거꾸로 가볼까요? 이런 식으로 약간 해보는 것도 좋은 연습이에요. The costs, so why did the costs quickly accumulate? Because the family booked a 2-week trip. Why did they book a 2-week trip to Disneyland? Because they wanted to give their son a very special experience on his first trip to the park. And so they decided to spare no expense. They spared no expense in planning for the trip because, again, they wanted their son's first trip to the park to be a very special one. And so they booked a 2-week trip to Orlando, Florida, and the costs quickly accumulated. The costs quickly added up. 이 기사를 쭉 보다 보면은 이런 이유에서 이런 식으로 여행을 다니는 가족들이 많대요. 물론 전체적으로 보면 좀 줄어드는 추세이긴 하지만 앞서 얘기한 이 가족처럼 이런 디즈니 패밀리 베이케이션을 다니는 사람들이 아직 꽤 있대요. 근데 중요한 거는 many of those families take on debt to go on those vacations. 그 휴가를 가기 위해서 debt를 take on 한대요. They take on debt for these Disney family vacations. They go into debt라고 하는 거랑 거의 비슷한 의미예요. They go into debt. They take on debt. 빚을 내서 이런 여행을 다닌대요. Which means that these vacations get pretty expensive. How expensive? Let's see. For a family of 4, 4인 가족을 기준으로 봤을 때 for a family of 4, the cost of a 1-week trip to Disney can range from nearly $6,500 to more than $15,000. That's a lot of money, right? Granted, some of these folks will have to cross multiple states because, you know, US is a very big place. 근데 even considering that, 그걸 고려해도 it's a lot of money for just a trip to Disneyland. Of course, many of these people are staying over like 2 weeks at a time. 그래도요, they're not going overseas and they're just going to an amusement park, right? Hey, chat, listen to this. For a family of 4, the cost of a 1-week trip to Disney can range from almost $6,500 to more than $15,000. Can you believe that?
$15,000 for a week at Disney. You got to be kidding me. That's like setting money on fire just to watch it burn. These people are out of their minds. For that kind of cash, you could take a real trip. One where you don't spend half the time waiting in line to ride a glorified teacup. But no, let's blow a year's worth of savings so Mickey can give you a high five. Ridiculous. If you've got that kind of money to throw around, maybe try something that's not a complete waste, huh?
Okay, geez. Okay, a little moody today, but hey, he speaks the truth. He makes a good point, right? Okay. 그러면서 Miss Leach가 이런 she's the mother. She says this.
I'll make more money, but he'll never be that young again.
Wow. I mean, what a sweet person. What a great mother, right? I'll make more money, but he'll never be that young. That is so sweet. I think you're going to like this. This one mother says, I'll make more money, but he'll never be that young again. Come on, that's so sweet. That's so thoughtful, isn't it?
Sweet, thoughtful, don't make me laugh. That's just a cop-out for blowing money they don't have on crap their kid won't even remember in 5 years. The I'll make more money excuse is the kind of talk that puts people in the poorhouse. You want to teach your kids something valuable? Teach them that money doesn't grow on trees and that there's more to life than overpriced theme parks. But hey, if they want to spend their lives chasing Mickey Mouse, who am I to stop them?
Yeah, okay, that's so brutal. Okay, let's move on. Mr. Sfeller에 대한 얘기가 나오는데요. 홍보와 마케팅 일을 하고 있는 41세의 아빠예요. Mr. Sfeller prides himself on nailing his budgets. Mr. Sfeller prides himself on nailing his budgets. 그러니까 쉽게 얘기해서 돈 관리를 정말 잘하는 걸로 스스로 그걸 이제 자랑스럽게 여긴다라는 거예요. Mr. Sfeller prides himself on nailing his budgets. If you nail something, you do a really good job at it. 그랬던 Mr. Sfeller가 딸이 4살이 됐을 때 디즈니 휴가를 다녀왔는데 예상보다 돈을 너무 많이 써서 충격을 받았던 그런 이야기가 있어요. 이런 얘기가 나와요. He had budgeted almost $6,000 for the trip, but overspent by $2,500. He had budgeted about $6,000 for the trip. 그 여행을 위해서 한 $6,000 정도의 예산을 잡았었는데 but overspent by $2,500. $2,500만큼 overspend를 한 거예요. He overspent by $2,500. If you look at that number, that's almost half of what he had originally budgeted. for the trip, right? 애초에 예산 잡았던 양의 거의 절반이에요. 그 정도면. 자, 이 돈 관리를 정말 잘하는 Mr. Sfeller에게 왜 이런 일이 벌어졌는지에 대한 얘기도 나오는데요. Numerous pricing changes에 caught off guard가 됐대요. Numerous pricing changes에 caught off guard가 됐어요. If you're caught off guard by something, I think the most important part about being caught off guard is not being able to respond properly or immediately in the right way. Usually because you're not prepared. Maybe you just don't have the knowledge or information, or simply you're just not emotionally or mentally prepared for something and you don't or can't respond properly. And Mr. Sfeller just didn't know about these numerous pricing changes and therefore he wasn't prepared for them. He failed to account for those pricing changes and was caught off guard and couldn't respond properly and ended up overspending by $2,500.
You're there, you're not sure when you're coming back, and it's like, fine, I'll just bite the bullet. We'll worry about the cost later.
You're there. 일단 거기엔 벌써 이미 가 있고 you're not sure when you're coming back. 언제 또 돌아올지도 모르고 and it's like 그래서 어때요? Fine, I'll just bite the bullet. We'll worry about the cost later. Bite the bullet는 어떤 힘든 상황에서도 그냥 참고 하는 거예요.
I just didn't want my daughter to miss out on anything.
I just didn't want my daughter to miss out on anything. 딸이 놓치는 게 없었으면 했다. I don't know. Are children really missing out on a lot by not going on these expensive Disney vacations with their parents? I mean, I think I'll ask Chad. Hey, Chad, are children really missing out on a lot if they don't go on these expensive Disney vacation trips with their parents? What do you think?
Are you kidding me? Missing out on what exactly? Standing in endless lines, eating overpriced junk food, and sweating it out in a crowd of tourists? Give me a break. Kids don't need a Disney trip to have a good childhood. You think they're going to be emotionally scarred because they didn't get to meet a guy in a goofy costume? Get real. They'll survive without it and probably be better off. Spend time with them. Teach them something valuable. Give them experiences that actually mean something. You don't need to shell out thousands for that. But hey, if you want to keep feeding the Disney machine, go ahead. Just don't act like you're doing the kids some big favor.
So I think what ChatGPT is trying to say is that children are actually not missing out on a lot by not going on these expensive Disney vacations. Anyway, 그러면서 Mr. Feller는 또 이렇게 얘기를 했대요.
By the end of the trip, it was several $100s that I didn't bank on.
물론 제 ChatGPT만 이거에 대해서 안 좋게 생각하는 건 아니에요. 기사를 보다 보면은 개인 자산 관리에 대한 책도 쓰고 팟캐스트를 운영하고 있는 Ms. Cruz 같은 분도 계시는데 뭐 여러 가지 얘기를 했지만 가장 핵심적으로는 she advises families against going into debt for vacations. It's pretty obvious why, right? So she advises families against going into debt for vacations. She urges people to hold off on traveling until they have a solid amount of savings socked away. She urges people to hold off. Urge people to do something이라면 웬만하면 이렇게 해라 라고 강하게 이렇게 권고를 하는 거예요. To hold off. 당장 하지 말고 그걸 일단 참고 미뤄둬라. 나중으로 미뤄라. So she urges people to hold off on traveling until they have a solid amount of savings socked away. 이 socked away, having something socked away, 이건 저도 전혀 몰랐던 표현이에요. 뭔가를 나중에 쓰기 위해서 아껴두는 거, 저장해 두는 거. Having something socked away. To sock something away means to save something for later use in the future, okay? She urges people to hold off on traveling until they have a solid amount of savings socked away before booking a vacation. 물론 이게 맞겠죠. 그리고 이렇게 권고하는 전문가들도 있지만 그런 반면에 46세의 레베카 미첼 같은 사람들도 많은 것 같아요. 이분은요. 지금은 어떤 일을 하시는지 모르겠지만 딸이 어렸을 당시에 $15라는 시급을 받으면서 일반 사무 일을 하시던 분이에요. 당시에 딸을 데리고 디즈니 휴가를 가기 위해서 significant credit card debt를 take on 하곤 했대요. So she used to take on significant credit card debt to pay for expensive Disney vacation trips for herself and her daughter. 그리고 그 이유는 whenever she managed to put some money away, a financial emergency would wipe it out. Whenever she managed to put some money away, a financial emergency would wipe it out. Whenever she managed to put some money away. Put some money away라고 하면은 이제 돈을 좀 저축해 두는 걸 얘기를 하는 건데 돈을 좀 저축할 수 있다 싶으면은 어떤 financial emergency가 발생해서 그걸 다 날려버리곤 했다라는 그 얘기예요. Okay? So whenever she managed to put some money away, whenever she managed to save some money, a financial emergency would occur and it would just wipe out her savings. 그래서 at the time, she didn't think that saving and budgeting could do much for her. She didn't think that saving and budgeting could do much for her. 그래서 그녀는 당시에 저축을 하고 그런 돈 관리를 하는 게 그녀에게 그렇게 도움이 된다고 생각하지 않았대요. She didn't think that saving and budgeting could do much for her. Why? 거꾸로 거슬러 올라가 봐요. Why did she not think that saving and budgeting could do much for her? Because whenever she managed to put some money away, a financial emergency would just wipe it out. So what's the point of saving and budgeting? It's not doing much for her. So what did she do? 그래서 그냥 어떻게 했을까요? Her strategy has always been to just book the trip and then figure it out along the way. Her strategy, 그녀의 전략은 has always been to just book the trip. 예약할 거 결제하고 계획 잡을 거 다 잡고 and then figure it out along the way. 실제로 돈 나가는 거는 그때 가서 해결을 하는 걸로. 그 앞에서도 비슷한 얘기가 나왔었어요. Mr. Esfeller 얘기였나요? We'll worry about the cost later. 비용 걱정은 나중에 하기로 하자. 이렇게 했던 것처럼 figure it out along the way. That was her strategy, pretty much. Why? Because saving and budgeting didn't really do much for her. Or at least she didn't think so. Because whenever she managed to put some money away, a financial emergency would wipe it out. And so, for her, she didn't think that saving and budgeting could do much for her. So, what was her strategy? To just book the trip first, then figure it out along the way. 그러면서 마지막으로 이렇게 얘기를 했어요.
Had I waited for the money, I don't know if I would have ever done it.
Had I waited for the money, I don't know if I would have ever done it. Had I waited for the money. 여기서 말하는 the money는 뭐예요? 앞에서 얘기했던 saving과 budgeting을 통한 a solid amount of Miss Cruz가 얘기했던 a solid amount of savings가 socked away 될 때까지 참아라라고 했던 그 돈을 내가 기다렸더라면 I don't know if I would have ever done it. 과연 그거를 하게 되는 날이 왔을지 모르겠다. 그게 뭐예요? Go on those Disney trips with her daughter. Or is it her son? 어쨌든 going on those Disney vacations. Had she waited for the money? She's not sure if she would have ever done it, which probably means that she probably would never have done it.